Welcome back to Steam-Powered Scoundrels, a Malifaux podcast. Episode 80, Ben, Charm Wars exist. I don't know, I don't banter with either of you two, so there's no, cold open. We're breaking a streak for once.
Just fine here, yeah.
If I'm not too familiar with the show, Seraph, 99% of our recordings have, a couple minutes at the beginning where we're just in mid-conversation, primarily because someone at one point complained about it, so we felt obligated to make it even bigger every single time, and so I think I've met my qualification for the cold open of this show. Welcome back to Steam-Powered Scoundrels. I'm your host, Douglas Scoundrels, and not the foreman this time. I still haven't done that in a while, which is great. Okay, so we have another rewrite today, because I enjoy these things thoroughly. I have two guests with me and no other scoundrels backing me up, so wish me the best of luck, folks. I think I can probably entertain y'all anyway, so I think I'm funny. But anyways, let's introduce our guests. Ben, you first. Who are you? Who's Ben?
Hi there. Yeah, I am a 3rd edition Malifaux player. I live in Omaha. I hang out a lot in the Malifaux World Series Vassal stuff and run local Omaha events now. Mostly otherwise I go to Doug's tournaments. I'm a rules lawyer for the Vassal World Series, which sounds like a bigger thing than it is. I'm not particularly good at the rules of the game. I just know how to look them up when somebody needs something answered. And besides that, I'm a priest in the Episcopal Church as my secret identity when I'm not gaming, which just makes for bad religion and politics dinner conversation and gets me kicked out of parties.
All right, I guess I probably should have just specified that we are in fact I am fixing the frontier keyword today. And Ben is the closest thing I have to a frontier expert that is able to record at this time.
I have been a guild player all edition with the good, bad, and ugly of it. So yeah.
Okay. And our other guests from across the pond, right? England.
Correct, yeah.
All right, Seraph, talk about yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Seraph for Tabletop Odyssey. I'm coming here from the UK. We've got quite a large scene down where I am in the east of England, as it were. So my channel's all about just doing some real life, I guess, battle stories more than anything. Taking the camera a little bit out of it and narrating more of a story behind the things. I do some audio stuff in my spare time. Used to be a radio presenter for university, and now I'm just finding my way to see how the industry goes while I work on everything else. So yeah, for our community, I guess I'm the local bass player, so I have some experience in this, but I kind of prefer to use the explorer side of things. I don't know if it's been mentioned before in other places, but I guess I'm the idea behind the Oops All Armor bass, which is basically just running every single Armor 2 model you can find in Explorers and the Frontier keyword and laughing.
Okay. You give me a link that you would like me to put in the description so I can plug your stuff. This is terrifying. I've got someone that is a rules lawyer that's going to critique my ability to write rules, and we've got someone who is experienced with presenting that can critique my ability to host things. I am in trouble.
The good news is these are all made up rules, so there's no way that I can say they're wrong.
There is one in here where it is 100%. Oh, I can do this because it's not an actual rule. There ain't no way in heck that they would allow this to happen in the game of Malifaux.
Nice.
Okay, I'll go over my rules for those of you that are unfamiliar with them. This is just a for fun rewrite of the entire Frontier keyword. This is not a critique of Weird, and it is not a critique of Weird's developers. I'm not saying they have done anything wrong. It is just a case of, colloquially, we have decided that Frontier might be a little underpowered, and so we're just going to buff them and have fun with it and make some references and all this other stuff. It is a fun exercise for me, and that is the end of it. I am not suggesting that these things happen. If they happen, that would be cool, but I don't think I'm that good at developing. Along with that, the only real rule I try to hold myself to is I try not to adjust points too much. That's the easy way out. That's the 40k way of eroting, which is not fun. So for the most part, I just try to adjust things to be maybe above the curve for their cost. And with that being, I am not looking for a perfectly balanced thing here. I know most of the stuff is probably a little overpowered, but that's part of the fun. I had 2 people help me this time instead of just 1, and so we tried to keep it a little bit more balanced than normal. But there's probably some exploit that we completely missed. I am sorry ahead of time. But let's go ahead and get into it if we're okay with that. Oh, the one thing I forgot to add to that list is a keyword upgrade, Ben. So I am going to let you out of that list. Maybe we can just go back and forth, because I've got 2 people here. We'll let you guys to just pick one of the models in the list, and I will give you the changes I have made for them. But I figure I can just do the keyword upgrade now, if that's all right.
Yeah, okay.
All right, cool. So this goes along with the fact that we are removing Home on the Range from every single model in this faction, in this keyword. I get where it was coming from, but it's taking up card space for something that happens once in a game, and then you just completely ignore it. And so I felt that the crew was fairly mobile anyways, so we are completely nixing the whole starting ahead of your deployment zone. Instead, we are giving them a keyword upgrade that just gives them the ability, the new Home on the Range ability, which reads, enemy models cannot ignore cover when targeting this model. If this model is in terrain, it gains +1 defense when targeted by melee attacks. Yeah, go ahead. That's the thoughts on that.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like the thing that's been missing in Frontier in my head is like the dust mechanic. It's a lot of work for something that it's hard to pace during the turn of a game, and then they all get picked up, and very little happens when you pick them up except for Pearl's ability. So I love this as something that makes it meaningful to have the terrain down. I mean, I've got sort of a balanced curiosity about like being in terrain generally versus like being in dust clouds or severe terrain, which I think is the other, like the way it was originally templated. But I'm optimistic at the start. I think the keyword needs some tankiness, and this will hopefully do it.
Yeah, definitely. I think my favorable terrain is kind of a bit of wasted space on the card as well, if I'm being honest. A lot of the time it seems a bit redundant, as it's an ability that doesn't work for like 50% of matchups, maybe even more. If you're not in a gunfight and you're not in cover or in severe terrain or near impassable terrain, it's just not going to do anything. Having something that stops people from like engaging with it that's definitely an improvement for sure. They needed a way to gain an advantage over other gunfights that they didn't really possess, especially when dust clouds are such an important part. I mean, Bass 2 seems an auto-take to a lot of people because their dust clouds don't disappear, so you can utilize them for other abilities and set them up. Bass 1 doesn't have this advantage, so that's definitely a good improvement.
Mm-hmm. Great. It was initially something along the lines of they would gain cover from melee attacks as well, but we couldn't figure out how to make that not obscenely powerful since you're effectively always defense 6, hard to wound for everyone in the crew. So we decided just half of the cover rules, +1 defense, and you still need to be in some kind of terrain, which you will have access to that on the board regardless, unless it's a poorly built board. But then you will have little pockets of it with the dust clouds you kick up. Yeah,
I like it.
That's it for the upgrade. So Ben, we'll let you pick first. Who are we talking about? Every single one of these has changes. I think in a couple times in previous recordings, there have been 1 or 2 models that have not been changed. Some of them have more than others, but I'll let you just pick.
So I think like the daddy-daughter mechanic is near and dear to my heart as a girl dad. And you know, I think something we should say is like Cornelius Bass is like one of the candidates for actual good person in Malifaux. I think so. I don't know. I'm not a deep lore guy, but my understanding is he's based on Bass Reeves, the who was a slave who liberated himself, an enslaved person who liberated himself, made it to like Oklahoma, and then worked as a lawman in the actual American frontier. So I think with all of that, I'd like to know what Badlands Sheriff is, because that feels like the identity of this person to me. Yeah.
Thank you for the description of exactly who he is. We never actually went over like the
amazing, yeah.
backstory of the keyword or how they're supposed to work, but I guess we'll get into that generally. Okay. Cornelius, Bass, Badlands, Sheriff. This is the one with the really broken thing, so I guess we'll just get that out of the way too. 2 big changes and 2 small changes. 1 -1 defense. Not going to be able to have him be 7 defense in terrain. That's too much. So basically, anyone with 6 defense in this keyword is getting knocked down to 5. It's okay. They get other stuff. First up, Dust Bowl will add the text. Once per activation, friendly frontier models may remove a friendly dust cloud marker within 1 inch to add 1 suit to their final duel total.
So it's removed to add a suit?
It's removed. I will also let you know we're adding additional ways to get dust clouds. It's not just going to be kick up dust. So keep that in mind. On top of that, we are going from hard to wound to hard to kill for another purpose we can mention later. And the real interesting one, Deputize, is a new ability that he gains. When hiring, you may hire 1 living-only minion model as though it had the Frontier keyword. The hired model may not be assigned upgrade. I just thought it would be really funny for a mature Nephilim to have a 10-star on him. Bring back the old M2E mechanic of mercenaries. That was the idea here, that this sheriff out here is just like scrounging around for anyone who's willing to help and throwing a star on them, say you're a deputy now. I'm sure there's a combination out there that we didn't think of, but I thought limiting it to minions, one of them, and not getting the keyword and not being able to get upgrades was a decent enough restriction.
Yeah, Seraph, do you want to swing at that first?
I'm just looking up what they can get here at the moment. Just like, I guess having a Berserker Husk is a very interesting deputy. Hiring there's got to be a cost limit on that, I think, just to keep it a bit fairer. But it's an interesting idea, to be honest, because there's some things that do get free hires, obviously, already in the game. So it's an interesting concept. I'll just take a look at Guild now, see what stuff they can... Oh, okay, yeah, a lot more options there.
And this is not faction locked, Doug, right?
No, it's not.
Not faction locked. Oh, God.
Not faction locked.
Oh, okay. Right, so let's see what the worst thing is.
Well, friend Brian specified that like simplest might be best, and like a nurse or a scavenger would be good here.
Yeah, I mean, that's where my mind went, and I think kind of like World Series min-maxing, and also a little bit of like still feeling the loss of tools on the lawyer and guild. I do think in guild, like if I want to spend 10 stones on a beater, like a mature Nephilim is amazing, and like I have a lot of great 10-stone beaters in guild. So it does feel like what's the like niche tech hire that would be really interesting. And I mean, tools is always good, like putting it with the nurse, who I think has healing, and like the small favor obey, but like, you know, she's the only one handing out poison. I'd have to like chew on it, but I do think it's an interesting mechanic. I do like the theme, and it does feel very Malifaux that this guy who like is working for the guild because they've got papers on him, working for the explorers because they might represent a way out of the guild, but like he seems like a dude who would be open to like, yeah, an autumn night can come hang out and help us out for this mission or whatever. So
yeah, they're under like shackles or something.
So it seemed like the sort of person that would be willing to like look past someone's background or origin if they offer to help, because he's a good guy. He's a good guy, Cornelius Bass. Yeah, chew on that all you want. I'm sure we can come up with the dumbest thing. You out there that are listening, please tell us the dumbest thing that I didn't notice that completely ruins his ability, please. I'm just having so much fun with
drop that.
the idea. Yeah,
charm orders. It is charm orders. Of course it is. Oh man, yeah. I've been seeing them in every list, like just top of round 2, remove 4 cards from your hand. Like, yeah. Okay. So Bass with a charm order. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I missed 2 things here, but this is more of a hey. This is stuff to come. We've got 2 extra triggers on the back of his card. I don't know where he's fitting them. Just pretend they fit. His Peacebringer now gains a mass trigger called Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke reads, let me scroll up because it's not on his, drop a concealing severe dust cloud marker within base contact with this model.
Sure.
Easy enough. No longer have to completely rely on kick up dust. Twisting Tornado gains another mask trigger called Downwind. Okay, Downwind says, let me find the dang thing again. I should have. Why didn't you start with the first? How dare you?
Sorry.
Well, I can't find the text. I know what it does, though. It effectively is push a marker within range up to 4 inches. Any marker.
Okay. Wow.
Yes. Yes.
So that's meaningful, especially if it's not restricted to non-scheme. Like that's a lot of scoring disruption or enabling. I like it.
Yep. Yeah, this might definitely be the broken thing because it's not just on him either. But
yeah,
this is what
I reach for the Badlands Sheriff right now when I want to screw up what the other person's doing, like either with the TN on wanted posters or like condition heavy crews, like just suddenly sweeping a dust cloud across like a McMorning unpack and say nobody's poisoned now or whatever. Like that's the stuff that I think is really interesting on him to begin with. So being able to like further disrupt, like, oh, like you're Hoffman, your Peacekeeper's actually not going to get a power token because its pylon's not there or whatever. Like those all seem like big deals.
Yeah, I feel like the easiest way to limit it if this was something that was obviously too strong is to make it friendly markers. Still assist yourself in scoring with schemes and stuff, but make it less annoying. But again, this is the fun part. This is where everything's too good, and then we test it and we tamp it down, right? If this was an actual thing. But yep, that's all I've changed on Badlands Sheriff. I felt like he was the one that was closest to good.
Yeah, he always felt quite good to be for. Apart from maybe lacking a couple of triggers in places, he felt pretty complete. So,
okay, that's him. Seraph, your pick next.
Well, for sanity's sake, let's go with Cornelius Bass 1.
Another tradition I normally had, it was giving the ones without titles, and I got stuck between Cornelius Bass Stoic and Cornelius Bass Prairie Protector, and that was because I was told that I probably couldn't call it Cornelius Bass Daddy.
God of the year right there.
Yeah, that would be the card art for that title, I think.
And so this one of his big mechanics I just added on here. I know there is a limit to it that I hadn't really figured out a way to properly get it to not be a weak spot. So this is totally up to you guys how you figure out how to make it better. But it also could be really damn good. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just too worried about marker removal, I'm being honest. But anyways, the changes to Cornelius Bass Stoic. Minus wood defense, of course, I said before, removing home on the range because I said so. We are gaining the ability, what are your intentions with my daughter? After an enemy model resolves an attack action against a friendly Burninette base with an 8-inch aura, that model gains Distracted 1 and Injured 1. Don't fuck with this kid.
And she's got Bring It to, like, pull him in, and assuming it's still there, yeah.
Yeah.
Bring It hard to kill, and now you're distracted and injured, yeah.
Let's see, we are removing Caught in the Briars. That's, it's a good, if you got to set it up, it's a good defensive trigger. I just personally do not enjoy the stop your entire activation stuff. That just seems unfun for your opponent. So I've replaced it with something else, but we'll get back to that later. Let's move on to the back of his card. Chesterfield Shotgun, remove severe injury, gain the Gunsmoke trigger. Caught in Quicksand, we are changing the text to, this cannot target the same model more than once per turn. This action ignores concealment. Target suffers 1/2/3 damage and gains injured +1. If the target is within 1 inch of severe or blocking terrain, place it within 4 inches of itself.
It's a big place.
That feels like good quality of life, yeah.
Yeah, that was like the first thing that was complained about for his card specifically, is how specific Quicksand is, and then the occasional shoot them across the board because you put a river on it. Bullshit. So we're just going to nix that. It's a lot easier to get off. It has a lot more utility because you can put them behind a fucking wall if you really want. And then you would fix the text on among the willows to target the terrain that they are within 1 inch of, as opposed to in.
Still have the Sandworm?
We are actually replacing Sandworm with Downwind.
It would be nice if they just got the Sandworm to place instead of having an attack.
He now has a sandworm he can bring, so he doesn't need the trigger anymore.
Right.
This was also the intention being this is going to be a fuckery attack, not a I hurt you attack.
Yeah, for sure. I do think, like Tull's push people back attack did get altered so that it couldn't push people through terrain because people were complaining about that play experience. So the 4-inch place maybe could be a push or something, but 4 inches is a tight area. So, and this is not giving them staggered. So I think that's testable in this in this thought experiment. Yeah.
Thank you for saying it's testable. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Stoic Nod. We're gonna add 2 inches to it, and that will affect also Reichert and Bill Ulgren. I think are the 3 models that have Stoic Nod. Since you're nodding at someone, they just really have to see you to get that across, and I feel like 6 is too short of a distance for that. So we are plus 2 inch range, plus 1 stat. He is going to gain the RAM Mutual Understanding trigger. Target model may take this model's Stoic Nod action.
So they can nod
It just
back and
nods
heal
at
him.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's good. That's good.
I do love the I mean, I know it's a trigger so it doesn't keep going, but I do love the notion that a bunch of frontiersmen are nodding at each other back and forth.
It's a beautiful mental image.
Yeah.
For fun, we also added a crew trigger called Inspiration because I couldn't find anyone in the game that did this. Remove any number of conditions on the target. So either you can bounce nods around or you can just clear someone of a bunch of BS because you're playing against WoW.
Yeah, I think Serena Bowman's got Painkillers, which does a heal with condition removal, and Monaco pulls conditions off and then cleanses herself, and there may be a heal on that, but it's unusual.
Any thoughts on? Well, it's a utility trigger. It's not ha ha ha. People are just nodding at each other, so don't need all that. Okay, the most interesting thing. We're finally back here to the tactical actions. We're gaining a different bonus action than Claim the Bounty. It sounded like you really liked Claim the Bounty. I'm sorry, Ben, but I needed the space on the card.
It's good, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay, gain bonus action Wagon Train. Range 8 inches, stat 6, target number 12. Drop a 50mm height 4 blocking impassable wagon marker onto base contact with target friendly marker and remove the target. Back to the front of the
target's
card.
A friendly marker.
Yep.
Target's a friendly marker, puts a wagon there.
Yep. Puts a wagon there. The dust concealed, or the ski marker concealed the fact that there was a wagon there. There has been more inexplicable bullshit, worse inexplicable bullshit in this game. But that is to go back to the front of the card where we have the ability Circle the Wagons. Once per activation, friendly frontier models may add 1 suit of their choice to any duel total if they are within 4 inches of a friendly wagon marker. So,
right.
I wanted...
So they're a little bit
since the keyword still is relatively fragile, I wanted them to get a slightly more reliable triggers onto them. Bass 2 makes them remove the dust markers because the dust markers stay. Bass 1, we're not relying on those dust markers. We have a marker that is not destructible that they can push around, and it's a little less mobile than Bass 2, but a little safer. And also you have it's a 50mm blocking impassable marker. You can mess with things with that. The limit being you have at most 5 on the board at turn 5, because Bass is the only one bringing these out.
And is it destructible?
No.
Okay.
You can push it with downwind.
Or slam or something.
Yep.
Could move it. So so that same as the Hoffman pylons. The complaint was that they could wedge stuff in, but then the slam action lets you move them, and moving a 50mm gives you a little bit of offensive counterplay against it too, which is nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I assume Bulldoze still works against it, but yeah, it's a very big base. I mean, it's going to be used pine boxes as well in terms of blocking space, but it's not destructible. So yeah, could be interesting to essentially create some cover, portable cover there for you. That's really good.
Create cover that your opponent can't ignore now.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'm going to go double check Bash real quick.
And he is still generally just Matter Dog Moody with a Chesterfield, so...
Yes, still hitting things pretty hard.
Yes, right.
And they like the important thing about Slam, it is a place, and so you can get a pretty significant amount of movement just because of the length of the 50mm marker, which can be done offensively against basses, wagons as well, if need be.
Right, yeah.
So that is Cornelius Bass Stoic. Ben, we're up to you. Go ahead and pick your next model.
Well, I am, I think, enough of a traditionalist. I'll want to know what Bernadette's up to before we start jumping around in the keywords. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, she's the reason they're here in Malifaux, right? So let's and I guess again the lore piece here is Earthside. She like learned to be righteous from her father, and then stood up for a boy who was being bullied and got attacked for it, and knifed the guy that was attacking her. And he was like the son of a corrupt judge, so they had to flee, right? So again, like for a like everyone's awful in this universe IP, we're bent over backwards to make them the good guys. So yeah, Bernadette.
It's a great thing about Malifaux. Some people are actually good. This isn't your 40K where everything has to be awful. Some people are just people, and some people are decent people. Bernadette Bass, +2 cost, like that matters. +1 willpower, +2 wounds. She is noticeably less fragile here. We are removing Home on the Range. What a surprise. First of her 2 new abilities. 1, On the Edge. When a friendly model within 8 inches is reduced to 1 wound by an enemy effect, draw a card.
Is that an aura?
It is just 8 inches.
So counts yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
But also does... I forgot to remove the line of sight. You do not need line of sight because your model is put in a dangerous situation. It's got to really be worth it. So it's just going to basically her half of the board. If someone gets knocked down to 1, you draw a card.
It's taking advantage of all the hard to kill in the faction.
There's more now.
Yeah, I assumed there would be. Well, just as soon as you said that, but I was just like, so that's why you're adding loads of hard to Right, yeah.
Okay.
If you're removing the bounty from Bass 1, they needed some more card draw for that, so that's definitely good.
Yep. And other new ability, this is 100% just to assist with the wagons. Work ethic. Either that or bootstraps, I guess I never actually picked what I was going to call this. Friendly frontier models within aura of 8 that take the slam action immediately gain fast. This is quick cure, but for your keyword.
Yeah, nice.
So shove that wagon. You don't feel bad wasting an AP to shove the wagon.
Yeah, I like it. Very elegant.
And then just for fun fuckery on the back of a card, we're giving her false claim.
Oh, that's good. She actually becomes useful with her actions.
Gotta give her something.
I mean, she's a significant totem. Like but I like this a lot. And I feel like I'm starting to see things connect, right? Because, for example, if Pearl still has her... I think it's called Reformed, where when something's picked up, a bandit or a frontier can heal. Now with the second Bass, where you're able to pick up the markers to add a suit, there's actually, there's a reason to put down a marker, pick it up, get the heal. If you've gone down to hard to kill, you've drawn a card. So like I see things already kind of layering in a way that makes more sense, which is great.
You just might have to be a bit aware of if people are going to be shooting her down to hard to kill and then healing her back up with Stoic Nod. Just draw loads of cards on the first turn.
Well, I think your opponent just needs to learn the game of don't waste your last AP on an attack that might bring them down to hard to kill. You want to make sure you have 2 AP to bring them to hard to kill and then kill them.
But yeah, like the friendly effect attacks does make, like, that's a real thing. If she's starting at 6 wounds, like, I don't know if knocking 5 off her to hard to kill is like worth the AP investment and the like, making her that much more fragile for 1 draw. But maybe.
So let's just having fun.
And you could also be like enemy effects, bring a model on if you wanted.
I did say enemy effect.
Oh, okay.
Reduced to 1 wound by an enemy effect. So there's like 2 or 3 models in this keyword that don't have hard to kill. So I didn't specify trigger hard to kill. I just specified they have to go to exactly 1 wound. And then also if it was like triggered hard to kill, then if someone just got the right amount of damage, it also wouldn't proc, I believe. All right. That's it for Bernadette. Seraph, pick your next model.
Okay, I'm going to probably ask for the thing we wish was probably the totem, the Clipper.
Clipper is one of the ones where it does not have a whole ton of changes to it. Seemed like a relatively decent model, except for like one small thing. In this case, we are reducing its movement by 1, and then we're giving it run and gun.
I would take that deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also reduced the range a bit on the pneumatic spike to also make up for how much more useful run and gun is on a model that only gets its power tokens by charging.
Right.
And then added 2 to the stat for supply drop just because that seemed, well, especially in Frontier, it's kind of a niche thing to have. But I think that would just put it up to needing a 3.
I mean, I think in Guild, you're dropping, the play line is you bring Peacekeeper, you bring Clipper, you bring Pearl, you bring Steward. Pearl throws down an enemy marker, the Steward draws, Clipper throws down a scrap marker, and then the Peacekeeper activates, grabs the scrap, takes a walk on the enemy scheme marker, and it's ready to go for the round. And then if you've got a Rough Rider in there, it can index the scrap to draw because it's also a McCabe Wastrel model. Which is basically your whole list at that point. So I think the Oops All Armor thing is a little more expected and less cute in Guild, where you've got Leadline Code as well, than in Explorers. But the play line, the power line in Clipper to me is all that vantage point trigger and to some extent the staggered. So I think run and gun, where you get to charge once and take that shot, bake in the trigger, drop a scheme marker. Like that's the real scoring power in that model and in this keyword. Fly With Me basically already gives you the run and gun effect, but being able to get the charge as well so you've got the suit is important. You could maybe even get rid of Fly With Me in this rework because you've got the ability to add suits with dust markers, which would really power up Vantage Point. Like you could just self score and snare with 1 power token, for example. But yeah, I would agree in general it's not a model that needs a lot of adjustment. Like it works well for what it is. It can move some of your keyword around. Yeah, Clipper good.
Hooray. I didn't screw this up. Ben, it's your pick next.
Well, let me pick a model I once hired by accident thinking he had armor piercing and he wound up doing real work in that game. Paul Crockett.
Yay! I didn't have a whole much for Paul Crockett, and then I added an extra thing that I feel really gave him an actual use or interesting role, because I was initially like, oh, Paul Crockett, he looks like a Pathfinder. He's just like a named better Pathfinder. He's the same cost. I forgot he's the same cost. So we can't do necessarily a super fancy Pathfinder because we have a Pathfinder at home. So Paul Crockett, couple things. 1, removed home on the range. Everyone's surprised by that. 2, he gains favorable terrain. He didn't have it before.
Yeah. I'm looking at that in the app. I'll be darned.
How odd.
Every single person I pointed this out to is like, oh, he doesn't.
Yeah, that's dumb. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Favorable terrain. The thing I feel like it was going to be the most identifying for him is he now has stealth.
That feels needed, to be fair.
Makes him noticeably different than the Pathfinder, I feel, at that point. Also, he's really not getting Senate Blood off unless you bring the Worm. That's an ability that really isn't for his Frontier keyword.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I like it. And I don't know that he needed a lot. He's got a good melee attack, good ranged attack. He just yeah. Natural Musk is sort of a thing, but yeah.
Also added Gunsmoke to the Long Carbine and +1 stat on the Kick Up Dust. I tossed around whether or not I should have Downwind on Kick Up Dust, but let's leave that for the expensive stuff. Yeah, need a 4 for Dust Marker or a Mask on his gun. There we go. That's it for Paul.
Yeah, it's good. Long gun, stealth's nice. Actually ignores terrain.
Okay, Seraph, your pick now.
Oh, let's have a look at Pearl.
Pearl. This was a copy from, I redid Bandit, and so I'd actually already done Pearl. The one change I would have is we don't remove Reformed. I removed it for Bandit because it was less useful in Bandit. But she also gains favored terrain, for 1. +1 move. Her sawed-off shotgun gets blast on weak damage. Let's see, and most of this was just geared towards Bandit, but Brushfire now only affects dust clouds. but she gains a second tome trigger red-handed. Once per turn, this model may immediately take the draw them in action and may treat scheme markers within range as though they were friendly models.
That's nice.
Yes.
Yep, I'm digesting. It makes sense.
I'll just have to go back and grab my entire explanation before all this stuff from that recording or something.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting. Like, draw them in and a couple other things are interesting because I feel like the keyword sort of flirts with staggered, but then there's not a lot that attacks move. I mean, Bass 1's caught in quicksand, which is already statted to hit and give you injured. So yeah, it's interesting, but draw them in actually affecting schemes makes it an action worth taking instead of just blasting away with a shotgun. So
just feel sometimes it does need a little bit more staggered synergy, especially because with Pearl and you've got Bass 2, the traps, they're all, they're either targeting movement or they're hitting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of staggered being thrown around that I feel like they probably could have done more with it. But
I believe the staggered synergy is you shoving them into severe with staggered.
That's the hope, but when it actually occurs,
that was the plan.
Very rare. Yeah.
Well, no, you've got a couple you got a couple things in this keyword now that move the markers, so you can dump a dust cloud on someone.
Yeah, and I do think though, part of where I think the actual sort of taking the design and putting it on the table has not worked is just people either bring the stuff that ignores severe into Bass already. Because the boards he's good on have forests or whatever, so people are bringing their incorporeal, they're flying, they're unimpeded models, or you set up your trap, you stick them in a pit, and then all the pits just get picked up at the end of the turn, and so pacing has been an issue. So I feel like the ways you're adjusting stuff is going to address that, which is good.
Yay! Yeah, yay for Doug. But that's the changed Pearl. Really, I think the move 6 and favored terrain is also just in there to really. Why does she not have favorite? Okay, anyways. Who's Ben's next? Ben's next.
Yeah, I think one of the models that got me excited about this keyword is, so there's the hint, this keyword when I think Bass was the third box I picked up after Lady Justice and Nellie. Let's do the Austringer, throwing birds at people.
Okay, we'll go ahead and cover the Train Raptor too. That's fine. Just because they're linked. I know I put them separate on the list, but I feel like just go over both of them. It's a big keyword too. Austringer, +1 move. Remove heart of the range. Home on the range. Let me pull up the card so I know what I'm actually saying. Only 3 abilities, goodness. Gaining hard to kill. Yay. Card. On back a card, Clockwork Revolver gains the Gunsmoke trigger. And the Skybound Ally upgrade. The Angry Raptor attack on it gains the Vantage Point trigger.
Desperately needed that.
Need something.
Yeah, Austringers have been the austere end twig we have at home of 3rd edition. So, and being able to suit it via the dust clouds makes it worth putting down a dust cloud, even if you're spending somebody's big bonus action for it. So,
yeah, you never know.
Yep. Well, if you're throwing the bird, that's your bonus, right? But,
they are throwing the bird. Fair. Then you just got to park next to a wagon. Or, use everyone else's ability to get the tomes they need and save your tome for the bird. Options.
Yeah, at least you can move your nice big cover that you want to hide behind out of line of sight now, rather than just staying in one position and going, I hope they don't see me.
Yeah, and I do think when you're paying 6 or when you're paying 7 for these, and it's usually going to walk, focus, and throw one attack, you really want that attack to be reliable. The stat 6 has helped already. But then if you really needed to hit with crit strike, or you really needed to hit with the onslaught trigger, being able to suit it with the dust cloud removal or the wagon, kind of makes these guys worth hiring to do their job. Yeah.
Oh, I completely forgot he has a melee attack. We are giving them a lucky knife instead of a knife. I don't even remember what lucky knife does. I just know it's a range 1, and I hate the knife action. So we'll do that too, just cause. Yeah. Lucky Knife and Stat 5. They're cost 7. Having a Stat 4 anything is absurd.
Especially on a cost 7 model. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's... Okay, move over to Trained Raptor, the bird. And one of my lovely little editors really wanted this thing to actually possibly be hireable, or at least useful, so that you actually had a choice of whether or not you wanted to use the upgrade to save the Ostringer or have a bird. So, Trained Raptor. We're going to gain Demise Cannon Fodder.
That's good. I'll take that.
Remind me, that drops this, that draws a card or the opponent discards a pass token, something?
You draw a card, and if they have not activated, you gain a pass token. So it's better than expendable.
Nice, yeah.
The other two changes. One, a new ability that I love the name of. You better enjoy dad jokes. This is Carry and Carry Off. Before this model moves, it may choose to gain Staggered. If so, it may choose a marker within Aura 2 of it. After resolving the move, place the chosen marker into base contact with this model. This bird is dragging away if it has to.
That's amazing, yeah.
I was just going to do kind of like a drag behind thing, but I realized move 7 is too much for this. So we're going to at least drop them down to a 5.
It's a big throw.
Yeah, I do like
good.
it.
With the base size as well. Yeah, that's really good.
Yep. But I mean, there's still...
Yeah, it's funny.
Easy to bring down.
If somebody wanted to complain about the wagon. Yeah, like...
shoot the bird.
No, I think it's great.
Pretty easy to kill. Yeah. And then for fun, we gave them a bonus action called Scree in all capital letters. Stat 4, range 6, resisted by willpower, target gains distracted 1.
Nice.
Give them a bonus. That's like, can maybe do something every once in a while. Okay. Cause like what they're rarely ever getting circle overhead. That is the Ostringer and the Trained Raptor. We're up to Seraph. You can select the mystery models, by the way. That is an option.
Well, I thought I'd save the mysteries for last.
Okay.
Let's have a look at the humble frontiersman that does in fact exist.
Yes, it does in fact exist. Frontiersman. We're gonna remove home on the range. Big surprise. I'm gonna say that joke every single time until you tell me to stop. We are getting Hard to Kill. All right. The Tomahawk...
5-stone hireable model.
The Tomahawk is going to gain reposition. Kick Up Dust gains a tome trigger called Focused Attention. This model gains focus +1. So maybe efficiency there. And we are getting a new ability that is also in another model that probably makes more sense once you hear the name of it. Trailblazer. In this case, stat 5, target number 10. Other friendly model only move the target up to 4 inches, ignoring terrain.
So just a straight upgrade to follow my path?
Yes.
Nice.
So ignoring terrain, they could just pop through the other side of a building.
Yes. I mean, if Seamus can do it. So there's a
I
pretty
mean, my
thin building.
power creep brain is kind of going to doctor's orders, which is pitch a card to move up to 4 inches, not ignoring terrain. But I think if this has a TN on it, it will definitely like cause these guys to be hired.
Hooray! I'll count that as a success. Yeah, that seemed like I was meddling with it quite a bit. It ended up on 4 inches. Obviously, that distance can go down, and the TN can go up, or the staff can go down, or whatever. That's easy enough. But the idea being like, they and the Surprise Pathfinders also have this, are supposed to be the frontiersmen. They would know a way around the bullshit terrain of Malifaux, and they could guide someone.
I think if you make it non-blocking, or, you know, like if they move for ignoring non-blocking, non-impassable terrain, you're fine.
How about just a push ignoring turn?
Or maybe. I mean, I think that the problem really is if people can go through walls with it, right? But because if you're like shoving your Peacekeeper through like an alley, that like that's when someone's going to bitch about it. But like it's a cool ability. Like regardless of what fine tuning it would need to like be competitively balanced, like absolutely that's what these guys are supposed to be doing, and like that's what you think is supposed to happen when you read Follow My Path. Yeah.
Okay. You know what? My blanket reasoning for why these things are as strong as they are is charm orders exist. Let's move on.
Yeah. But we've got one in the list, Doug. We brought in a deputy.
That is the humble frontiersman, Ben. Yeah, you're next.
That's back to me. Well, I guess let's let her roll on Pathfinder since we started in on their magic path following.
Okay. Pathfinder move 6 now.
That's good.
It's good. It's good to be finding some paths. I'm not gonna make the joke, but we are removing a specific an ability that we shall not name, and we're gonna give them ability that everyone else is getting in Hard to Kill. the fun thing here is that they're gaining the Apex keyword, and as well also predatory instincts. They genuinely look like they would fit right in with the Apex keyword. And Apex, I feel, is relatively top-heavy, so a stat 6 minion wouldn't be the worst thing for them. And, guild people are notorious for taking bribes, and there's one person with an absurd amount of money. It's Lord Cooper. So with that is the only change to the Clockwork Trap, is that they're gaining the Apex keyword. They don't need predatory instinct.
You sure?
Nice.
But yeah, I realize that I'll probably eventually get to Apex with this variation of the show, and I would probably take Pathfinders. Okay. Anyways, that's the front of their card. Hard to kill, Apex keyword, and predatory instinct.
Yeah.
Yep. +1 move. We're throwing out Trailblazer. Meh. Long Carbine is gaining Gunsmoke. Kick Up Dust is gaining Reposition. And then Follow My Path becomes Trailblazer, the new one.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a model, like 3 useful bonuses and the ability to like take your concealment ignoring gun, take a neg to its attack and a pause to its 2-4-5 track. Like, yeah, they'll see play.
Especially because in one of them you said that you're going to get built-in suits half the time in both keywords with this, so they're getting armor piercing or delay. That stay the same. So that's instantly a lot more powerful having an inbuilt armor piercing, essentially.
Is Apex giving them?
No, with your changes, you said that you could for Bass T, for example, you could discard a cloud.
Oh, you meant
you have ways of getting suits built in now, which you didn't.
Yeah, I thought you meant in both Frontier and Apex, not in either version of Bass. Okay, it's my misunderstanding.
Yeah, and I do feel like the triggers are already like decently balanced because like delay is impactful. But if you've spent a bonus or a trigger to like get the marker down that you've now like fully exhausted in order to like add that, sort of pre-flip to your attack, like that feels correct. Like, yeah, and it's a stat 5 gun, it's a stat 5 0-inch knife, unless you're beluckying the knife. Yeah, I think there's nothing obscene has been done to this model, and I think they are playable now at 6 stones. I will bring them if I don't need the crew to be going forward much in the like pool, but yeah, this stuff would all make sense for them.
Okay. We'll not belucky the knife. They're not cost 7, obviously. That's the cutoff point, I guess.
7 is a luckier number, so
yeah, obviously. That's perfect. I love that excuse.
Yeah.
All right. Done with the Pathfinder. We're actually getting through this pretty quick. Seraph, next to Mini.
Let's take a look at the Sandworm.
Okay. Sandworm does not have a whole lot, so it'll be quick. We're moving home on the range. We are gaining Tremors. This model may deploy buried. You're welcome, Ben.
Hey, I love this. Mm-hmm.
Yay.
And as you hoped and asked nicely, we will get to the tome built in on Sandstorm. And I thought as a special treat, we would change the text of Sandstorm to models treat this area within range as severe. Non-frontier models also treat it as concealing and hazardous.
Hooray, yeah.
I was like, hold on. Your keyword actually would enjoy this being severe. Let's make it work for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I think like I think you asked me about it like this morning, hey, does this guy need anything? And I thought, I don't know, maybe it could deploy buried. And I don't think it's like an unreasonable alpha, right? Because Bass 2 can like throw a 10-inch sand marker down and like, oh shoot, I got to deal with this. But of deployment mind games, I think being like, okay, don't stand in the forest, a worm might get you, is not a crazy one. And like Bass throwing a marker downfield, like a mature Nephilim can get your deployment round 1 if you want to like just throw somebody down. So I do think it's kind of a nice way of making it impactful right away. And you give up, I mean, you took the Claim the Bounty off of Bass 1, but right now what it does is round 1, your 8-stone model drops a scheme, takes a focus, goes into the earth, and, isn't heard from again until mid-round 2. And then you Black Joker the round 2 flip, and it's underground for another round or 2, and yeah.
Yeah.
So this is nice. Yeah. Quality of life.
I mean, I'd love to see it get something like made to kill as well, just to like really touch it off, but that might be a bit of overkill.
Ooh. Ow.
It's
Get rid
got
of the
sudden strike.
give
So
it to kill. Yeah.
yeah, right.
But it's because the fact it's on a different suit to the what you got in build.
Thrash.
So yeah.
And yep, that's it for Sandworm. Those 2 changes.
Yeah, what is nicest about Sudden Strike when taking this in a guild crew is it directly competes with Rider pulse cards. And the net effect of that in the competitive scene is you just don't take the worm. But when you do take the worm, like it kind of pressures out the Pale Rider, which is nice. Like you're sort of thinking like, do I want 11 or 13 stones for this when my 8 stone model can get a 3rd attack off the same card? And yeah, anyway.
We're on to the next model. I forgot whose turn it is. I apologize. Whose turn is it?
It's Ben's.
It's Ben's. We've got...
So I think we're on to the mystery models. Is that right?
We got Reichert, Rough Riders, Reichert. And then the 2 mystery models.
I forgot Reichert's in the keyword. He was wearing a bandana. Yeah, let's do Reichert.
Okay, this one has the least amount of changes. Removing that one particular ability. +2 range on the Stoke Nod, as I said before. And you pointed out that, Bring It doesn't ignore concealment. And I didn't want to just make it ignore concealment as much as I would absolutely love that as a Tony 1 player. We figured, he's wearing a bandana, so your opponent might be slightly confused, but he's still really good at pulling them in. So instead of a stat 6, we're now a stat 5 positive flip. Okay. Who's that? Guy with the bandana. Just some random standby, right? Right. Here's he have disguise.
He's an executioner.
What
he's a retired executioner. He's wearing a bandana. I don't think he's an executioner. They don't wear bandanas. That is my favorite dumb joke in Malifaux is like put a bandana on somebody. Like I don't have any idea who that is. It's like the Clark Kent of Malifaux.
I always like to point this out that his head perfectly fits the sombrero from Old Francisco. Oh. And so my Reichert has a sombrero.
Nice. I think I've got an Old Francisco actually. So yeah.
I would count that as disguised. Really would.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we just do the Rough Rider and then the 2 mystery? Right? Good? We good?
Yeah, Rough Rider. Let's
go. Rough Rider, gaining hard to kill instead of that one ability. Not too much of a difference with them. I was also told that they're relatively close to where they should be. Trampling Hooves is going to gain reposition. Repeating Rifle is going to gain Gunsmoke. And Riding With Me is +1 stat.
Yeah, that's nice. That they're already in a good place, to be honest. So, I mean, just getting a reposition is probably the biggest help, to be honest. Just another way to get out if you need to.
Movement fuckery is the key.
I would agree they're already fine. I think
I got to adjust everyone, and might as well make the keyword overpowered. Mm-hmm. Hey, Ben, Charm Orders.
I mean, amen, for real. And what you know what's wonderful about it is people who play Charm Orders will nod and smile and say, "Yeah, this is busted. I shouldn't be playing this, but I am." Like as they're winning with it, so they know. Everyone knows. Yeah. Okay. I think that's great on the Rough Rider. Yeah, like all that stuff would be fine. They'd love it. And I feel better about everyone getting hard to kill because like that's basically the Savage profile is like you're just going to pile damage into these things. And then if they heal back up, like if you give them the time to heal back up, you're in trouble. So
that's your fault.
They're definitely too squishy without having something. So
yeah.
Okay. Mystery models. Seraph, I skipped over you, so I will let you pick. Do you want the red or the teal one?
I'll be taking the teal, thank you.
Okay. Now, this is going to be kind of weird because you technically just bring them in anyways, but we are slapping the frontier keyword on Christopher Tannenbaum.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to go ahead and remove unimpeded, give him favorable terrain. His haphazard topography is going to gain the downwind trigger. And the fun one, the one I decided I was going to do with the intent of like original Home on the Range in mind. Orienteering, stat 6, target number 10, tactical action. Until the end phase, friendly models within an aura of 8 that begin their activation on the enemy's half of the board gain +1 movement during that activation.
So you set off the tactical, and then from his position, any model within 8 that is also starting on the enemy half gets +1 move.
Yes.
I mean, if the front of the card, I feel like that could just go off. Like, I don't know that you need a TN or anything on it.
Okay, fine. Yeah, he doesn't need to activate.
You're already in position a lot of the time if you're that far ahead. Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking of like Sophie and like the Hodgepodge Emissary does this, right? Like where they just have an aura where if you start near them, and I think that's a tighter aura. Yeah, but they get +1 move. And yeah.
And
is he still a versatile as well?
Yes, like nothing else is
right,
changing on the card.
because obviously for Bass it's less of a big deal being in the opponent's table half, but for a lot of other crews and explorers that's quite impactful.
Yeah, move along is 3 inches on the Hodgepodge Emissary for what it's worth, and I keep forgetting to write this down, but it is intentionally not to need line of sight either,
because they're stuck behind giant wagons.
Yes. Yes. I probably slapped that on too much stuff, but just the idea of like his presence inspiring people to be better, like navigating terrain, because he's the map man.
Well, he makes map. Yeah. You've got to give everyone a copy.
Yeah, I do feel like it's like it'll be nice when it's there. I don't think it's going to unlock anything particularly, and you did like tune up the move on a lot of the keyword already, and they're unimpeded. So I think this is kind of like just value added, right? Like it's never going to be bad to have free movement and that kind of thing.
I like they had already updated him very recently, and I think the card's pretty decent as is. It was mostly tying him into the keyword ever so slightly more, and then also you being able to bring ink fingers into guild.
And winding down with the charm order.
Yeah, right. That's really a non-bow. They have no hand to discard, so the real issue is charm order into executioner's clause. Anyway, whatever. We'll forget about the charm order.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I wasn't intending on orienteering being like this busted thing because he did seem relatively simple, but to make it sort of thematic to be up in your opponent's crap was the intent. There's definitely ways you could play around that.
I feel like what would really happen is people would start using that ability suite outside of Bass, and you gave him the downwind trigger?
On haphazard topography, yes.
Yeah, so I think what would happen is people would start going like, oh crap, this is good. Like moving stuff is good, and then that would sort of be a bridge into looking at Bass is what would happen, which is great. Like that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So our last model. We are adding the frontier keyword to Allison Dade, of all people. Can anyone tell me the theme I'm going for here? Anyone at all?
I don't know her lore.
Fun fact. Okay, there are 2 people that have made their way into the game from the very first Penny Dreadful through the breach called In Defense of Innocence. Tannenbaum and Dade are from the frontier town of Innocence. So I thought if there was any particular master that would get chummy with the people from that town, it would be Bass.
Yeah, love it. It's funny because her like sculpt reads to me as like sort of prissy city. Like so my initial reaction was like, would Dade get outdoors? But that's good to know. Yeah, back to her roots.
Back to her roots, indeed. -1 defense because can't have defense 7. Jesus. I never liked the plot as a foot as someone who dabbled in journalist a decent amount, so we're throwing that out for favorable terrain. We're also throwing out chasing a story. Just some stuff I'd never really like. Someone's probably going to be mad at me, and I don't care.
It's me.
Okay, fine. Fine. Be mad at me. I didn't know you even knew Dade existed, so okay.
No, I like journalists, but Dade, keep going. I'm curious.
Like part of my issue is Dade. Like, she is just like a mini Nelly, but that doesn't really make for fun, interesting stuff. So now she's the yokel that came into the big city and still is like, within her roots. Like, for some reason we got to go out into the boonies for this story, and Dade is suddenly in her element. So tossing out chasing a story, we're gonna add. This might be way too fucking broken, or it might be not useful at all, depending on how I worded it, so we'll see about that. Bend the truth. We're not twisting it, we're bending it ever so slightly. After an action resolves in which a non-strategy marker is placed within RS6 and line of sight of this model, and line of sight, this model may push the marker 1 inch in any direction.
Yeah, I mean it's an influence bubble, right? It's like anti-place auras where you like it just sort of makes the opponent solve for where can I put it. So I think that's okay.
it's 1 inch, but just everything that isn't a strategy marker is just getting adjusted 1 inch. So you're just slowly yanking your opponent's ski markers out of place and other such bullshit.
Yeah.
No, you actually aren't going to put that ice pillar down next to my models. It's just out of your bullshit. Give me slow range now. That's what I wanted with that.
It's also really good against
nice.
things like Asami as well, pushing the rift markers and other hazardous stuff as well, I guess. Just pushing them so they're not
Go
too close,
away.
or just out of range for them to push them into you or attack out from.
Yeah, I think like Turner is weeping in Mysterious Emissary somewhere. Although I think blast markers have a core rule that already stops them from being affected by things that affect marker placement.
That is actually why I put after an action resolves. So the blast would already been picked up.
So you're in good shape there.
I did actually consider blast markers. That'd be too much.
Yeah. No, I think that's a neat ability. Definitely, like gives the model an identity. Like you would think about teching her in against Rasputina and probably another number of other things. Like, yeah, cool.
Okay, and we're gonna remove blackmail because I don't like pass token pass token generation. Enough people complained about that I'm just on the side of let's just maybe shy away from that unless you're like one specific keyword. It's a great action, but I also need a space for something that doesn't exist in the game, and it's a sin. Jonathan Weird, it is a sin that nothing says on its card muckraker.
Checks out.
That term comes from this time period. How dare
Yeah.
Again, muckraker, 8 inches, stat 6, target number 12, once per turn shockwave. Shockwave 2. Willpower 14, damage 1, and this model's choice of staggered or distracted 1. For any models that share a keyword, this model are instead pushed 2 inches in any direction.
Can I upsell you on that dropping a dust marker?
Ooh.
Is that not just Twisting Tornado?
Oh, fair.
Slightly different at that point.
Oh, I forgot Derringer gets Gunsmoke, so you can still produce.
Okay.
Yes.
But what that does
That's
is
a good point on Twisting Tornado. Yeah.
And then downwind on that, sure, why not? That seems balanced. You can also shove an extra marker. There's so much shoving with this one ability. It's called Muckraker. It's going to be great. It's got to be great. It's got to be great. And then just one thing that I was always annoyed with that I'm fixing myself, she's gaining Onward.
So she gets to trouble, she's muckraking near herself and then running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give her some more movement. Make sure she's really in a good spot for knew you're going to do that, which I love that ability. Which is also just like that, and Ink Fingers just bring another like twist to the keyword that people would have to prepare for that I enjoy. So outside theme, there are things that they are actually bringing to this keyword, even without my bullshittery.
I like all of it. I'm like still digesting, but I like the themey Frontier Town reporter identity is fun. I think it's fun in Nelly as well. Brian just twitched somewhere because I used fun and Nelly in the same sentence, but it's fun. Nelly needs reporters who have more of an identity. Like it'd be way more fun if Nelly had a newsroom that was not just like a bunch of clerks at typewriters. And like knowing that bit of background, Dade would be fun with someone like with these outdoorsy skills and unimpeded via favorable terrain makes a lot of sense. I like that Onward and the auras make you sort of balance manipulative against her positioning in a given turn. I like, I do think it's a good point on the Shockwave that you've already got Twisting Tornado. You could probably drop her Derringer if you've got a Shockwave. Like there's a lot of text on this card.
Yeah, that was I guess I never mentioned in the rules. I'd somewhat care about text on card, but outside of like making sure that they are at max of 6 abilities, sometimes I just don't care.
Yeah.
And
I do think she...
Fun.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying for fun. It's for fun.
Yeah. I do think like one more question kind of leans into like the Badlands Sheriff thing. Like this is a little bit of like how you interrogate someone, right? Send in the newsy reporter, the muckraker. Like there's some fun themey layers here. I like it.
Yay! That's it. Okay, big keyword. Like if I didn't like decide that I was always going to steal models regardless of what we were doing, I probably wouldn't have put those 2 in there. But it was so much fun. The past couple times I've done, I just said, well, just make it a thing. We'll steal 1 or 2 models every time. And I say steal even though we're just stapling a keyword onto it, with some exception. Like I think I removed the bandit keyword from something. Maybe the smugglers. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah, and whatever. So that is all the work we put into Frontier. Broken as hell. But, that's what playtesting is for.
I do feel like, of the abilities, there's very little that feels like it breaks the game, right? Like Brewmaster 2 with severe 5 on negs to positives, like just fundamentally changes math on models. I have not heard of anyone finding a solution for that yet. But I do think the deputized thing might get screwy. I think that the starting point is to bring in a tools model. The end point probably is the charm warder.
Anything that really fixes the cultural.
I think meanwhile, like what's so much fun about this keyword is the models are so close to feeling like they do what they're supposed to, right? Like frontiersmen ignore terrain, do a bit of healing, a bit of like attacking you with like chip damage shots. They move their buddies. Paul Crockett is sort of a unique Pathfinder. The Pathfinders themselves summon traps, ignore concealment on shots. The Rough Riders are good, like move somebody up the board, take some shots, go try to scheme, get killed while you're doing it. The Ostringers have that like unique attack. And then the like front line of Bass and Reichert and the Sandworm and then the Clipper and whatever buddy it brings. Everything is already so close to working. It just needs a little bit. And I feel like a lot of the pushing you're doing here, Doug, is like little bits of the sheriffy stuff, like a little more distracted, a little more staggered, and all of that helps. And then I think, baking in suits or having card draw when you're almost dead, like those are things we've seen before, and I don't think they're going to break the game or bust the keyword. So, yeah.
What's the cat's name?
This is Jones Exandra Hamilcat.
Hello.
Her name is Jones Exandra Hamilcat. She's
Hello,
probably
Jones
wondering where her dinner's
Hamilcat.
at.
Oh,
and this is Eleanor Ripley.
Hello.
So, Jonesy is named for the cat and aliens, and Ripley is named for the other cat and aliens. So,
thank you. I appreciate showing us your cat. Okay, yeah. I think that's your general review of these changes overall. Is like you like them. Did I do an okay job, Ben?
I love him for Guild. I think it, like, not only does it work, but there are moments where you'd see these models like come into other keywords, which is fun.
Yeah, I think it's definitely finding a bit more of a niche than what it was. I think in Guild they're contesting there's a lot of very similar masters, I think, and just trying to find making it more of a marker master, I guess, and actually focusing a bit more on that, especially for Guild's quite good. Obviously, it just synergizes really well with the rest of Explorers anyway. They all kind of well, they love terrain anyway, so
yeah.
It's generally a good change. I haven't found anything that's too broken, I don't think. No, it'd be worth testing. Apart from the charm water, maybe.
Someone suggested running like a tournament that only involved these specific keywords that I messed with, just to figure out which one was the most broken. Maybe someday. I at least want to get through one in every faction. I'll decide if Frontier is the change for the Guild or the Explorers. Maybe Guild, because I really want to take a crack at Apex, but I could see maybe Family getting adjusted a little bit. But I know the next one is going to be Kent specifically, so wish me luck on that. But do you have any other comments, Seraph? I kind of cut you off there. I'm sorry.
It's all right. I just think you're doing a good job. It'd be good to see some more ideas thrown out into it. I like seeing more creativity in people's ideas, a bit more of identities, things. It's good. Just do whatever makes things fun, and that's really the important part of playing, isn't it? So what's fun more than what's broke at the end of the day?
What's more fun than constantly saying, well, charm words exist over and over again? Is just
this has made me excited to play the existing Allison Dade and charm order models. But seriously, I think what's enjoyable about this is like it does remind you about what's already there in the keywords too, and you're like, this really isn't that bad. And then you go play it, and somebody reminds you, yes, it is, but it's enjoyable in the meanwhile. And Dade, I really was not thinking to review her today, but I really do like her kit, and I'll have to think more about where I want to just drop her in as a surprise for someone.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you both of you for being on and giving me your honest thoughts. I hope I was at least entertaining for an hour and a half. But I think we can call this good as a decent recording. So thank you for coming on and talking about the Frontier keyword, Ben.
Cheers. Thank you, Doug.
And thank you for coming on at the late hour of like 8 p.m. In UK. Seraph.
Thank you very much for having me.
Super late. Thank you. And I really enjoyed it. So as I always say in my send-off, as I always say, fun is always king. Enjoy your games of Malifaux or just making up some bullshit rules for okay, whatever. Anyways, have a good night. Bye-bye. You guys can say bye.
Bye.
Thank you. I have...
Songs used in this production are Villainous Treachery and 5-Card Shuffle. All music is created by Kevin MacLeod and is licensed under Creative Commons.